Every now and then, a machine arrives that makes even seasoned gearheads rethink what power, purpose, and madness look like. It is not about luxury or subtlety. It is about pushing engineering until the Earth itself reacts. Imagine a vehicle that treats sand dunes like speed bumps and desert trails like racetracks. A vehicle built not to cruise, but to conquer. It is the kind of creation that turns the empty wasteland into a proving ground for physics itself. Because when a company decides to drop a supercharged V8 into a pickup already known for its off-road dominance, something remarkable happens. This is a story about raw power meeting refined control. About a truck that turns chaos into choreography. Before we dive in, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on which high-performance machine you want to see covered next. The 2004 Honda CBR 1000RR Fireblade arrived at a time when the superbike world had lost its patience for subtlety. Competitors were chasing horsepower figures like headlines. The battle for bragging rights had become a numbers game, and Honda, a company once dominant in engineering finesse, found itself seen as the conservative player. The CBR 1000RR Fireblade changed that perception overnight. It was the brand's statement that raw speed was no longer the ultimate goal. Control was. The origins of this Fireblade trace back to Honda's work in MotoGP, particularly the RC211V project. That race machine had proven that precision and agility could outperform brute force. When the Fireblade's engineers began shaping the 2004 model, they looked directly to that platform for inspiration. The philosophy became simple. If the motorcycle feels predictable at the edge of traction, the rider can use every ounce of its performance. That was a revolutionary mindset in an era obsessed with peak power. Honda's team approached development like a physics problem. They knew the previous generation's CBR 954RR was light but twitchy at high speeds. Stability became priority number one. The answer came from adopting the RC211 versus Unit ProLink rear suspension system. By separating the shock mount from the main frame, engineers minimized chassis flex under acceleration. Riders could now hammer through corners without unsettling the bike's balance. This decision alone set a new industry benchmark for superbike composure. But the Fireblade's brilliance wasn't limited to its suspension. Honda introduced a radical new frame layout, with a longer swing arm relative to wheelbase than most of its rivals. This geometry reduced wheelies under throttle and improved rear grip out of corners. The Fireblade didn't need wheelie bars or electronic gimmicks. It was designed to keep its power on the ground naturally. The result was a bike that inspired instant confidence in riders at all skill levels. Power delivery was equally refined. While the Fireblade produced a claimed 172 horsepower, it wasn't about hitting peak output. It was about how that power arrived. Honda reworked the inline-4 engine with a short-stroke design, titanium valves, and advanced intake velocity stacks to provide strong mid-range torque. The result was linear acceleration, brutal yet manageable. Test riders described it as a superbike that felt eager but never erratic. To achieve that signature stability, Honda engineers obsessed over mass centralization. Every heavy component, from the crankshaft to the exhaust, was moved closer to the bike center. The underseat exhaust wasn't just for looks. It reduced yaw inertia, allowing riders to flick the bike from side to side effortlessly. Even the radiator and fuel tank placement were adjusted for improved weight distribution. Nothing about the Fireblade's design was accidental. Everything served the goal of balance. Then came the innovation that sealed its legend, the electronic steering damper. At the time, it was a groundbreaking piece of technology. Unlike mechanical dampers, Honda's electronic system adjusted resistance based on speed and acceleration. At low speeds, it allowed free steering for nimble control. At high speeds, it firmed up to prevent tank slappers. It was the perfect synthesis of mechanical intuition and digital assistance. No one else in the market had anything like it. Visually, the 2004 Fireblade struck a balance between aggression and restraint. Its fairings hugged the chassis tightly, aerodynamic without unnecessary drama. The dual headlights, sharp tail section, and clean body lines gave it a purposeful stance. Muscular, yet composed. It wasn't screaming for attention. It was quietly asserting dominance. The Fireblade carried an attitude of confidence that matched its engineering precision. When the CBR 1000RR Fireblade reached showrooms, the response was immediate. Riders who had once dismissed Honda as the safe choice now spoke of razor-sharp steering and impeccable feedback. Motorcycle journalists praised its composure on the track and its usability on the street. It was comfortable enough for daily rides, yet capable of competing with any superbike on the circuit. That balance of civility and ferocity became its signature trait. Every design decision had a purpose. The lighter, forged pistons reduced reciprocating mass. The close ratio gearbox optimized acceleration. The slipper clutch tamed downshifts at high RPM. Even the aerodynamic winglets in the fairing ducts served cooling and stability roles long before aero became a buzzword. It was as if Honda had built a MotoGP-derived machine that still respected the real-world rider. But the Fireblade's success was not purely technical. It was philosophical. It represented a return to Honda's roots. Engineering supremacy driven by understanding, not aggression. In a decade obsessed with horsepower one-upmanship, Honda bet on subtlety. The CBR 1000RR didn't try to dominate through spectacle. It dominated through trust. Riders felt in control, not in survival mode, even when pushing near the limit. Rivals tried to respond by upping their horsepower or shaving weight, but few could match the Fireblade's harmony. It wasn't just fast. It felt alive, responsive, and connected. Riders could feel the asphalt through every fingertip and toe, a sense of communication that turned speed into artistry. The Fireblade demanded skill but rewarded precision, making it a favorite among enthusiasts who valued control over chaos. The marketing tagline, "Total Control," wasn't a slogan, it was a design thesis. Everything about the 2004 CBR 1000RR Fireblade was built to deliver that promise. The result was not only one of the best superbikes of its era, but also one of the most complete motorcycles ever produced. It proved that ultimate performance could coexist with comfort, confidence, and refinement. As the Fireblade began earning accolades and race wins, it redefined expectations. Critics who once praised brute force started to appreciate the nuance of rideability. Riders discovered that consistency on the track often mattered more than outright top speed. Honda had shifted the narrative from domination to mastery. And that shift would ripple through the industry for years to come, influencing how every future superbike was conceived. By the time the 2004 CBR 1000RR Fireblade had cemented its reputation, it was clear that Honda had not just built another fast bike. It had built a philosophy on two wheels. Precision had triumphed over excess. The Fireblade was proof that true performance wasn't measured in numbers, but in confidence, control, and the unshakable connection between rider and machine. The deeper you look into the 2004 Honda CBR 1000RR Fireblade, the clearer it becomes that it was more than a product of engineering. It was a product of restraint. In an era when every rival was shouting louder, Honda chose to whisper with authority. The Fireblade's quiet brilliance came from discipline. Its engineers knew that perfect balance required knowing when not to chase extremes. The development team had spent years studying the relationship between rider input and chassis response. Honda's racing division had proven that stability and feedback were the keys to consistent lap times. And those lessons became the backbone of the Fireblade's design. The bike's aluminum frame was sculpted not just for strength, but for feel. Every weld, every gusset, every millimeter of flex was tuned to deliver predictable feedback through corners. Riders could sense grip levels through the handlebars and seat. It was mechanical telepathy. Even the braking system reflected this obsessive attention. The radial-mounted 4-piston calipers and 310mm front rotors provided immense stopping power. But what set them apart was the consistency of response. The master cylinders ratio was tuned for progressive pressure, ensuring that the first squeeze of the lever felt identical to the last lap of a session. Honda didn't just want a fast motorcycle. It wanted a motorcycle that would stay fast, lap after lap, without fading, wobbling, or betraying its riders' trust. When riders first experienced the Fireblade on the track, they were struck by its predictability. It didn't bite or surprise. It encouraged. It was the kind of machine that rewarded finesse, not force. Honda's approach to the CBR 1000RR Fireblade was akin to building a sports car that turns every driver into a better version of themselves. It taught control through confidence, making it approachable for newcomers and indispensable for veterans. The Fireblade also carried an emotional resonance that Honda hadn't felt in years. It was a spiritual reset for the company. A return to the mindset that had made the original 1992 CBR 900RR such a phenomenon. The 2004 version wasn't about nostalgia. It was about evolution. It honored the lightweight agility of the original, but infused it with 21st century precision. It was both heritage and innovation. Coexistence perfected. And it wasn't just about performance on the racetrack. On the open road, the Fireblade's civilized manners made it surprisingly versatile. The seating position was aggressive but not punishing. The throttle response was sharp but never jerky. It could carve mountain roads one day and handle a long commute the next. That duality, race-bred aggression paired with real-world civility, became one of the CBR 1000RR Fireblade's defining achievements. Honda's engineers had managed to compress MotoGP-level engineering into a motorcycle that everyday riders could actually enjoy. It wasn't a stripped-down race replica. It was a fully realized performance tool. Every switch, every lever, every surface felt considered. This attention to human experience is what separated the Fireblade from rivals that focused solely on speed. Honda's obsession with the rider's emotional connection to the bike became its secret weapon. At a time when the superbike segment was veering toward digital complexity, the 2004 Fireblade remained analog at heart. It didn't rely on traction control, riding modes, or launch assist. Those technologies were still years away. Instead, it achieved balance through geometry, mechanics, and physics. The engineers trusted the rider to be part of the equation. That trust was reciprocated every time a rider leaned the Fireblade into a corner, feeling it hold the perfect line without protest. The result was a motorcycle that inspired an almost meditative riding experience. The Fireblade felt alive under you, communicating every detail of the road, yet it never overwhelmed. It had soul. Not in a mystical sense, but in the way it behaved. Every throttle input felt natural, every correction effortless. Honda had captured something rare. A machine that could make you feel faster than you were. Its impact reached far beyond showrooms. Other manufacturers took notice of Honda's composure-centric philosophy. Soon, bikes across the industry began emphasizing mass centralization, refined ergonomics, and stability under braking. The CBR 1000RR Fireblade had quietly rewritten the rulebook, proving that true performance isn't only about aggression but about control under pressure. It marked the beginning of an era where precision became the new form of dominance. Even the smallest design cues carried meaning. The narrow fuel tank allowed riders to grip the bike with their knees for better control. The digital dash offered clean, race-inspired data with no distractions. The aerodynamic mirrors and sculpted fairings minimized turbulence at high speeds. Everything served the rider's connection to the machine. Honda's engineers were not chasing applause. They were pursuing perfection through simplicity. When journalists later revisited the Fireblade's legacy, many realized how far ahead it had been. It was the template for modern superbikes, long before the industry caught up. Its chassis balance, throttle feel, and ergonomics became standards by which others were measured. The 2004 CBR 1000RR Fireblade didn't just compete in its time. It predicted the future of sport bike design. And perhaps the most impressive part was how unassuming it looked. It didn't boast flashy decals or exaggerated bodywork. Its strength lay in understatement. The Fireblade embodied the idea that true sophistication doesn't need to shout. It simply performs, again and again, until everyone else notices they've been following its lead. The Fireblade's story is ultimately one of humility in motion. It was born from the understanding that engineering excellence is not about outdoing competitors. It's about outthinking them. Honda's designers knew that lasting performance is never achieved by chasing trends. It comes from creating balance that endures. In that sense, the 2004 Honda CBR 1000RR Fireblade was less a machine and more a manifesto. Proof that mastery is quiet, measured, and uncompromising. By the time the 2004 Honda CBR 1000RR Fireblade had settled into the spotlight, it was no longer just a motorcycle. It was a message. Honda had proven that engineering depth could outlast marketing hype. Yet, what makes the Fireblade's legacy so remarkable isn't only its performance in that single year, but how it reshaped an entire generation's understanding of what a superbike could be. It became a benchmark, not through excess, but through equilibrium. When enthusiasts talk about the Fireblade today, They often recall how it seemed to anticipate the needs of its rider. That intuitive nature wasn't magic. It was the result of Honda's relentless research into rider dynamics. Engineers spent thousands of hours studying how the human body interacted with machine feedback under stress. From that data came a motorcycle that felt human in its reactions. Predictable when pushed, forgiving when misjudged. The 2004 Honda CBR 1000RR Fireblade wasn't intimidating. It was empowering. On the racetrack, that translated into remarkable consistency. Lap after lap, the Fireblade delivered repeatable performance with minimal fatigue. It didn't punish mistakes. It taught lessons. Riders came off the track not drained, but exhilarated, confident that their inputs were mirrored precisely by the machine beneath them. That relationship between rider and bike became one of Honda's proudest engineering triumphs. It wasn't a computer doing the work. It was a conversation in motion. In racing, that conversation produced results. Privateer teams quickly adopted the Fireblade as their platform of choice because it was reliable, durable, and adaptable. The engine, though not the most powerful on paper, proved nearly indestructible under sustained stress. It could endure high heat, long races, and repeated abuse without complaint. Honda had designed it to survive where others simply aimed to win, and that resilience made it a legend in endurance events. Every aspect of the 2004 CBR 1000RR Fireblade was crafted to serve the rider's confidence. The throttle mapping, though mechanical by nature, was calibrated with surgical precision. The transition from closed to open throttle was seamless, avoiding the abrupt jolt that plagued many rivals. Combined with the bike's neutral steering geometry, this made it feel like an extension of the rider's nervous system. You thought about turning. The bike turned. You shifted weight. It responded instantly. But perhaps the most telling aspect of the Fireblade's impact came years later, as technology began to dominate the superbike world. As traction control, cornering ABS, and ride-by-wire systems took over, the 2004 Fireblade remained a reminder of pure connection. It represented the last great mechanical era, when control was earned through design rather than software. Riders who experienced it often describe it as the perfect midpoint. Modern enough to be razor-sharp, analog enough to feel alive. In hindsight, that balance gave the Fireblade its enduring appeal. It bridged generations. Old-school riders loved its honesty. New-school enthusiasts admired its refinement. Honda had unintentionally created a time capsule, a machine that could still hold its own decades later because it had nothing unnecessary to age. Its performance wasn't dependent on gadgets. It was carved into its metal. Even visually, the 2004 Fireblade aged gracefully. Its proportions were timeless. Its design free from trends that would later date its successors. The underseat exhaust, the compact profile, and the purposeful stance all contributed to a look that still feels contemporary. Unlike some motorcycles that screamed for attention, the Fireblade seemed content to let its performance speak for itself. It was confidence without arrogance, a visual representation of Honda's philosophy. Its influence on the superbike landscape cannot be overstated. Manufacturers began rethinking how they approached performance. Lightweight materials, centralized mass, and stability-focused geometry became standard practice. Honda's choices in 2004 forced an industry-wide reconsideration of what fast really meant. It wasn't about the highest dyno number. It was about how effectively that power could be used. The Fireblade had shifted the goalposts. For Honda, the success of the 2004 CBR 1000RR Fireblade rekindled its competitive spirit. It marked the return of a brand that had rediscovered its identity after years of chasing trends. The Fireblade reminded engineers and riders alike that perfection isn't about extremes. It's about completeness. Every bolt, every weld, every curve carried that message. The following years would see the Fireblade evolve through refinements, electronics, and weight reductions. But the soul of the 2004 model remained untouchable. It was the foundation upon which every modern CBR 1000RR was built. Its DNA could be traced through each generation, a constant reminder of what true performance design feels like when guided by purpose rather than fashion. And while newer superbikes may surpass it in outright speed, few have matched its purity. The Fireblade's gift to motorcycling was not just its capability, but its character. It taught the world that a superbike could be both thrilling and trustworthy. that control could coexist with excitement. It showed riders that mastery lies not in taming chaos, but in eliminating it. For many owners, the connection to the 2004 Fireblade was deeply personal. It wasn't just a machine. It was a partner. It encouraged improvement, rewarded skill, and never betrayed its riders' trust. Even years later, when electronics dominate modern motorcycles, those who ride the Fireblade describe it with reverence. It represents an era when engineering brilliance and rider instinct were in perfect alignment. So when you hear people call it a legend, it isn't nostalgia, it's recognition. The 2004 Honda CBR 1000RR Fireblade earned its place in history not because it was loud or outrageous, but because it was complete. It did not chase attention. It commanded respect through precision. That is why, even now, its name carries weight in every paddock and every conversation about superbike excellence. It was the standard by which others measured themselves, and for a time, none could surpass it. The 2004 Honda CBR 1000RR Fireblade proved that control could be more thrilling than chaos, but its legacy didn't stop with performance statistics or design patents. What made this motorcycle a cultural landmark was how it changed the conversation around what a superbike should feel like. Honda didn't just release a new model. It redefined the relationship between rider and machine for an entire generation. When the Fireblade arrived, the superbike scene was obsessed with one-upmanship. Riders were chasing top speed runs and drag strip times, while manufacturers competed for dyno charts and bragging rights. Honda quietly rejected that game. The CBR 1000RR Fireblade was designed around the idea that the fastest lap isn't achieved by power alone. It's achieved by predictability. A rider who trusts their machine rides closer to the edge, longer, and with fewer mistakes. The Fireblade made that philosophy tangible. The long-term influence of this design approach can be seen in how modern sport bikes evolved. The concept of mass centralization, once considered niche engineering jargon, became standard vocabulary. Manufacturers realized that distributing weight more evenly made bikes handle better at all speeds. The Fireblade had proven the science in the most convincing way possible, by dominating real-world riding tests and endurance challenges. Honda's choice to integrate the electronic steering damper also marked a turning point. It wasn't about adding digital control for the sake of novelty. It was about adding intelligence where it mattered most. The damper quietly adjusted its resistance based on speed and acceleration, creating a seamless blend of stability and agility. Riders didn't even notice the technology working. They only noticed that the bike felt calmer at full lean. That kind of subtle engineering became a defining trait of Honda's philosophy in the years that followed. The 2004 Honda CBR 1000RR Fireblade also influenced how riders viewed the connection between track and street. For the first time, a leader-class motorcycle offered both comfort and razor-edge precision without compromise. It could devour corners on a closed circuit and then handle a long weekend ride without wearing its rider down. That dual character changed what customers expected from a superbike. Performance no longer had to come with punishment. As the years passed, the Fireblade's DNA began to echo across the industry. Competitors started tuning suspension systems for feel rather than sheer stiffness. Electronic aids began to focus on smoothing power delivery instead of restricting it. Even styling trends shifted toward the Fireblade's cleaner, more purposeful aesthetic. It was the rare case of a single model quietly guiding an entire market toward maturity. Within Honda's own lineup, the 2004 CBR 1000RR became the benchmark for future development. Later generations would incorporate traction control, advanced ABS, and ride-by-wire systems. But the foundation of total control remained untouched. Every innovation that followed, from lightweight chassis materials to aerodynamic winglets, was filtered through the same lens. Would it make the rider feel more connected? That question, born with the 2004 Fireblade, became the brand's guiding principle. The Fireblade's success also re-established Honda's identity as a performance leader. The company had faced criticism for playing it safe in the early 2000s, focusing on refinement rather than excitement. The CBR 1000RR Fireblade flipped that narrative completely. It showed that refinement could be exciting when engineered with purpose. It reminded enthusiasts that discipline can deliver more adrenaline than chaos ever could. Riders who experienced the Fireblade firsthand often described it as confidence in physical form. It wasn't a bike that demanded aggression. It invited precision. You didn't fight it. You worked with it. That collaboration between human and machine became a defining experience for those who rode it, creating a generation of loyal fans who understood that true speed is measured in control, not chaos. Even today, when superbikes are packed with sensors, processors, and software, the 2004 Fireblade remains a benchmark for mechanical communication. Its analog feedback feels almost spiritual compared to the digital perfection of modern machines. Riders who revisit it after years on electronically managed bikes often remark how alive it feels. How every throttle movement, brake application, and cornering input feels personal. That is the hallmark of timeless engineering. In collector circles, the 2004 Honda CBR 1000RR Fireblade has quietly risen in esteem. It doesn't have the rare exoticness of some limited editions, but enthusiasts recognize its historical significance. It represents the moment when Honda balanced artistry and science with surgical precision. Every line, every component, every decision reflected the company's belief that true mastery lies not in doing more, but in doing exactly enough. What makes the Fireblade story so compelling is that it wasn't a reactionary product. It was a visionary one. Honda didn't create it to beat others at their own game. It created it to redefine the rules entirely. And it succeeded. The 2004 CBR 1000RR Fireblade taught the world that precision is not the opposite of passion. It is the purest form of it. That lesson still resonates 2 decades later. Every modern superbike, whether it admits it or not, carries some trace of the Fireblade's DNA. The pursuit of balance, the emphasis on stability, the commitment to rider engagement. All roads lead back to Honda's masterpiece of 2004. The Fireblade didn't just set a new standard. It became the standard. For enthusiasts who understand what it represents, the Fireblade is more than a machine. It's a reminder that technology serves the rider, not the other way around. It's proof that engineering perfection doesn't have to come at the cost of soul. The 2004 Honda CBR 1000RR Fireblade remains one of the rare motorcycles that manages to be both logical and emotional. Clinical in design yet deeply human in experience. Long after its production run ended, the legend continues every time someone swings a leg over that saddle, feels the throttle's precision, and realizes they're connected to a piece of history. The Fireblade is not nostalgia. It's relevance that refuses to fade. It continues to whisper the same message that defined its birth. True control is the ultimate expression of power.